Welcome to In the Spotlight, a regular podcast from the Witham, Barnard Castle's Community Arts Centre.
Hi, this is Stuart Laundy, and joining me for In the Spotlight this time is folk singer-songwriter Sarah McQuaid, who's coming to the Witham in early May to perform a show. I caught up with her a few days ago in the middle of a European tour. She was actually in Germany at the time. We'll be talking about touring and recording and much more besides, but to get us in the mood, here's the title track of her 2018 album, If We Dig Any Deeper, It Could Get Dangerous.
There's a boy in the garden with a shovel and a spade. He's gonna dig himself a hole that's the biggest ever made. Boy in the garden, shovel and a spade, biggest hole ever made. I say, I know you're having fun, I don't wanna make a fuss, but if you dig any deeper, it could get dangerous. Now we're drilling through the earth, building pressure all the time, splitting cracks in the rock to free the power inside. Drilling through the earth, pressure all the time, cracks in the rock, power inside. Some things are better left buried down under the crust, and if we dig any deeper, it could get dangerous. Put your shovel away, time to call it a day. Sometimes the way to fix a problem is to turn the pressure off, 'cause if you dig any deeper, it could get dangerous. We're bringing fire and flood, tremble the ground. See the pale forest with the trumpet sound. Fire and flood, tremble the ground. Pale forest, trumpet sound. I hope we can stop it, but we need to hurry up, 'cause if we dig any deeper, it could get dangerous. Dig any deeper, it could get dangerous. Dig any deeper, it could get dangerous.
That was my favourite Sarah McQuaid song there. If we dig any deeper, it could get dangerous. And if you're looking for deep meaning in that song, I don't think you'll find it there. Am I right in thinking that was a song when you spotted your son digging in the garden or something like that?
Yeah, I was keeping an eye on him out the kitchen window because he was only small at the time, and he was digging this massive hole, and I suddenly realized I couldn't actually see him. And so I went out and I couldn't see him until I got right up to the edge of the hole and looked down into it, and there he was down there still digging. And I said, "Oh, Eli, if you dig any deeper, it could get dangerous." And as soon as the words left my mouth, I just thought, "Oh man, that sounds like a song," you know. and you know, and a couple of layers of kind of possible meaning did immediately suggest themselves, you know. I mean, you could call it a song about fracking if you like. You could also call it a song about kind of interpersonal relations, where sometimes it's good to just, if you're getting yourself into a deeper and deeper hole, just stop digging, you know. So there's a lot of metaphorical content there, but also I just really loved the phrase as soon as I heard myself say it.
But the question that's been on my mind ever since I first heard the album is, what was he digging for?
I think he was just digging. I think he was just digging. I think he just wanted to dig as deep a hole as he could. Funnily enough, he is now studying archaeology at the
Obvious, of
University.
course he is. Of course he is. Oh my goodness. Now, the reason Sarah joins us on In the Spotlight this time is because you come into the Witham on May the 4th for a show with us. It's the first time for a little while that you've been back in our part of the world, so we're looking forward to that. But you've been on tour since October, and I just had a quick count up before you. Since the turn of the year, you're doing about 38 dates in the first 3 or 4 months. I mean, good heavens, how do you do it?
Well, I have a rule. I have a rule that I always do. If I've done 5 gigs in a row, I have to have a day off. You know, ideally 2 days off. In fact, right now I'm speaking to you as we chat here from friend's house in Germany. I've been on tour here in Germany for the last 3 weeks, and it's been a pretty intense tour. The whole tour is 25 shows in 4 weeks, but we've got 3 days off now, and I've done laundry today, which is really exciting. I get clean clothes, and you've been on the road for 3 weeks living out of a suitcase. Laundry day is such a thrill.
It's not exactly all glamorous tour buses and private jets, then, is it?
No, not by a long shot.
What does touring Sarah McQuaid style look like? I mean, how is it just you on? Is it just you by yourself? Who's on tour with you?
My wonderful manager, sound engineer, and producer, Martin Stansbury, is on tour with me. And he also does all the driving, which is fantastic. We tour in his band, so we carry PA with us a lot of the time. A lot of the gigs we do, there isn't PA already installed. I do a lot of concerts in places like churches and village halls and, you know, community centers and so on, where we have to load in all our own PA. So I help carry in and out the PA. So there again, it's not really glamorous, you know. I'm just walking back and forth, you know, lugging speakers and amps and so on. But it's, you know, it's grassroots, and I love it. And Martin's great company, and he also handles all of the logistics. So I've got all of that off my mind when, you know, when I'm touring. I just ask Martin, you know, what's the schedule for today? What time do we have to leave? And he deals with everything else. And, you know, but then I'm sitting in the passenger seat of the van, typing away on my iPad, writing emails, trying to book future gigs. So there's all of that too. It's a very, very small operation, but I just feel lucky that I get to do it.
We're not in any way a political podcast, but I note from the dates that you've done so far this year, you've been in Ireland, the Netherlands, Germany, and Denmark. And how have you found the actual logistics of getting around in this post-Brexit world that we live in? Has it added a lot more effort, energy, red tape to what you've had to do?
Yes, it has, and it's a real pain, especially because it's really just red tape. It's what I had to do in order to be able to tour in the EU, because there's a border now, is to have a document called a carnet. All the carnet is a big long list of everything that I'm taking out of the country and I'm going to take back in again. It's just to prove to the customs authorities that I'm not bringing stuff out to sell, to sell in another country, and that when I bring it back into the country, that I haven't bought it, I'm not importing it, I'm not exporting it, it's just all temporary. But in order to have this, you have to pay a great big fee. It cost me just under £400, which is a big expense when you're touring at a grassroots level like me. And we had to have a list of every single item. You have to have serial numbers of every kind of piece of electrical equipment you have. And it all has to be listed on there. And of course, there's a worry if, for example, we had to replace an amp, so the serial number isn't going to be changed. Now, so far, nobody's gone to the effort of checking serial numbers. It's the same thing, just a different thing of the same thing.
Yeah.
But, we could potentially be in trouble because we had to replace an amp and it's got a different serial number now, that kind of thing. And then what you have to do, everything takes longer because when you are getting the ferry, for example, from Harwich to Hook of Holland, you have to go to the customs office in Harwich, along with all the lorry drivers and everybody, and hand over your carnet, and they have to go through and, well, theoretically, again, it hasn't happened. Theoretically, they could ask us to empty out the van and verify that we are indeed carrying 2 speakers, everything. Thank heavens that hasn't happened. They just go, yep, music equipment, sign, stamp. Then when I get off the ferry in Hook of Holland, I had to go to the Dutch customs authorities and get that signed and stamped and everything. Now, thank goodness, Denmark and Germany are all still part of the EU. So we didn't have, which we would have had back in the 1970s, you would have had to go through that process on every border you crossed. The customs authorities on both sides going through the document and signing it and stamping it and keeping a copy for themselves. But it's extra work for the customs people too, and then we've got to do it again on the way back.
So it sounds like a great frustration.
It's a huge, immense frustration. It costs money, it costs time, and it's also a big waste of time for all the customs staff who have more important things to be doing than worrying about me carrying a bit of PA and some instruments out of the country and bringing them back again. That is really not what they're there for,
So having finally made it across to mainland Europe, how have you found the gigs, the audiences? Have people been turning out? Because when lockdown lifted and everything, of course, there was a lot of hesitancy, I think, amongst people about turning out to gigs, and attendances were down, and it continues to be a bit of a worrying time both for artists and venues. So how are things on the continent? How have you found things?
On the continent, it's been amazing. It's the first tour I've done since the pandemic where I'm actually getting proper audiences, proper full houses. Well, that's not true. I've had some well-attended gigs in the UK. I had a sold-out show at the Bridge in Topsham back in when was that? In November, I think. Losing track, but anyway, I've had some well-attended gigs in the UK, but they are very much the minority. For the most part, on my UK touring, it seemed like audiences really aren't quite ready. And from what I hear, encouragingly, I guess, what I'm hearing from the venues here is that these shows that I've been doing on this tour have, for the venues here, actually been the first well-attended shows that they've been hosting. I've been going to places and getting 70 people and then being told the last concert they did had 17 people. Yeah. So that's really encouraging. I don't know whether it reflects increased profile for me over here. I don't know whether it reflects the fact that I just haven't toured here in a few years and maybe people want to come out and see me, or I don't know whether it reflects a larger thing that's happening with people actually starting to feel okay about coming out to concerts again. I really hope it's the latter, because it would be really nice if that continued across to my April and May gigs in the UK, including the Witham, of course. It would be really nice to get a good audience at the Witham. I would love that because it's a gorgeous space, and I've played there before, and I can't wait to come back. And it would just be so lovely if people turned out to see me in the kind of numbers that they've been turning out to see me here in Europe.
We'll just pause there. We're going to play a track now from your most recent release, which was the St. Buryan Sessions. We're going to talk a little bit about that. But first, here's a track from the album, which is called What Are We Going to Do?
I didn't know that kiss was coming. I guess I could have started running. Soon as I saw what you were thinking, it serves me right. I shouldn't have been drinking, but anyway, you did. So let's consider, what are we gonna do about it? This little thing that you and me have started. Tonight is not enough. I might just fall in love with you say that this was unexpected. If you hadn't kissed me, I'd regret it. 'Cause when you leaned my way, I couldn't turn my face from you. What are we gonna do? This could be the end of something dangerous too. But right now it's all new. I don't know what way to play it in the light of day. We might not make it. I don't know if it's real. Don't know how to deal with you. What are we gonna do? What are we gonna do about it? This little thing that you and me have started. Tonight is not enough. I might just fall in love with you. What are we gonna do?
Right, so I'm chatting to Sarah McQuaid, who's this week's guest on In the Spotlight, the Witham podcast. And Sarah's coming to the Witham on Thursday, May the 4th at 7:30. Get your tickets. I'll give you details at the end of the podcast of where you can get them from. We're going to chat a little bit now about Sarah's most recent release, which was something rather special, which was done in lockdown, the St. Buryan Sessions. It's a live recording, but there was obviously no audience involved. And it's I think the best thing to describe, the best way of describing it, is it extremely atmospheric. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, we recorded it in St. Buryan Church, hence the St. Buryan session. St. Buryan is the village nearest to where I live in West Cornwall. I live kind of in the middle of nowhere, but I'm about a mile outside St. Buryan, and there's a beautiful old church there. Parts of it date back to the 11th century, most of it's 15th century, and it's just a gorgeous space. I've sung there a bunch of times. I sing in a few different choirs. I sing in the church choir, and I also sing in a local community choir that holds its rehearsals in the church. So I knew what a beautiful space it was for music. And they very kindly allowed me, just as we were coming out of lockdown, we had just reached the point where you were allowed to have 6 people in an indoor space working. That was it, and that was all we needed, because we went in there with the film crew. I did a big crowdfunding project, which was fantastic. It was so heartening, because this is just we had the idea just as we were going into lockdown. I had just come rushing home from what was to have been a European tour, kind of on the scale of the one I'm doing now. And in fact, most of the gigs that I've been doing on this tour have been rescheduled shows that were supposed to happen in 2020 and were canceled. So we did that final show in Berlin, which I think was the 15th of March, 2020, and then hightailed it home before the borders closed. I think we got word as we were on the ferry, we got word that the Dutch borders had just closed. So we really got home at the last minute that we could. Otherwise, we would have been stuck. And then we went, what are we going to do? And what are we going to do? Speaking of the song. And Martin, who again is my manager and who produced the St. Buryan Sessions, he had the idea of doing a live recording without an audience. And we thought, well, because we'd always wanted to capture some of the live performances of songs that maybe I'd first recorded years ago, and that had kind of grown and evolved in the course of performing them live. And we also had a couple of tracks that I hadn't recorded as yet that we wanted to record and that we thought would really suit the space. So we did a crowdfunder. I hired a wonderful film crew, a guy called Morgan Lewis to actually direct the film, and then he had a cameraman with him, and called John, whose surname I'm temporarily blanking on. Anyway, he's a terrific John Crooks. Crooksy. He's a really good cameraman. Has worked as a cameraman on the Eden sessions and places like that. So knows his stuff. And we went in there and we just recorded the album as live. And in addition to close miking me via the PA, Martin also placed little pairs of microphones all around the building to actually capture the natural acoustic of the church itself. So I kind of feel like the album, in a way, it's almost a duet with me and the building, where the building is kind of an equal partner in the whole thing. And I'm just so happy with the result and really glad that we were able to do it.
And the album's sort of a career retrospective, apart from a couple of tracks, as you mentioned there. How did you go about selecting what to play on the St. Buryan sessions? Is it sort of representative of your live set?
I constructed the set list for the album the way I would construct a live concert set, in that I tried to ensure a lot of variety in terms of playing different instruments, in terms of playing songs with different tempos and moods and paces, and sad songs, happy songs, that kind of a thing. And also I tried to choose songs that I felt would particularly benefit from being re-recorded as I was performing them live in solo. Like some of them had acquired, The Sun Goes On Rising acquired a whole extra kind of, vocal improvisation section to it that wasn't there when I originally recorded it. A lot of songs had changed because I had different instrumentation on the recording. Yellowstone, for example, I didn't play guitar on the original album version of Yellowstone, on the Walking into White album. I had such a fantastic classical guitarist doing kind of flamenco guitar on the original album version of that track, that I didn't feel my guitar was necessary. But of course, then I had to go out and play it on the guitar in performances. So I wrote a guitar part for it, for my own guitar, kind of based on what that guitarist was doing, maybe a little less fancy, but still having that kind of flamenco feel. And I thought it would be really nice to have that on an album, since otherwise, who would hear it? So it was really nice to be able to kind of set in stone the live versions of some of these songs that had been around for a long time, but had really grown and evolved since I first recorded them.
Well, we'll end there, and we'll end with another track from the St. Buryan sessions. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit. I think this is one of your older tracks, if I've got them in the right order here. Charlie's Gone Home. Tell me a bit about that one.
I recorded Charlie's Gone Home on my very first album, and it's funny because when I made that first album, I really didn't think of myself as a songwriter. I thought of myself as a folk musician who happened to write an occasional song. Charlie's Gone Home was one of the first songs I ever wrote, and I wrote it back when I was still living in the States, actually. And it's kind of one of those songs I read I saw an interview with a poet in which she was talking about creativity and she said she saw poems as being kind of like trains that came along and hit her. She would feel a poem coming on and she'd have to rush home to be at her desk to be there when the train pulled into the station and the poem hit her. And Charlie's Gone Home hit me a little bit like that. I didn't sit down going, I want to write a song. The song just kind of came to me and I wrote it. And I put it on that first album, even though it didn't really seem to fit very well with the rest of the material, just thinking, I've written this song, I may as well put it on the album. And then a lot of people really responded to it. And anytime I performed it live, I'd get people coming up to me and saying, what album have you recorded Charlie's Gone Home? Can I buy that on an album? And it was that getting that kind of response to it that made me start thinking, maybe the songwriting lark is something I should put more effort into. Maybe I should actually. So I feel like it's kind of a special song for me because it's kind of the song that really got me started on being a songwriter.
Well, we'd better have a listen to it then. Sarah, thanks ever so much for joining me. As I mentioned, Sarah McQuaid comes to the Witham on Thursday, May the 4th at 7:30. You can get tickets from the Witham website, which is www.thewitham.org.uk, and details are always also on Sarah's website as well. Just Google Sarah McQuaid and you'll find her all over the place there. But now we'll leave it with Charlie's Gone Home from the St. Buryan Sessions, and our great thanks to Sarah McQuaid.
Thank you, Stuart. Charlie's gone home now. I drove him downtown and dropped him off at the station. I'm sweeping the floors now, changing the sheets and organizing the kitchen. And the house is so quiet, it feels so strange. Only 1 hour, everything's changed. It seems so empty. I feel so alone. It was a party that lasted a week and a half. We played music together and we drank and we laughed, and now it's over. 'Cause Charlie's gone home. He came here one evening. I wasn't expecting such a happy surprise. With his jokes and his teasing, he had me laughing so hard there were tears in my eyes. And Charlie's got a whole lot of stories to tell. He has an endless supply and he tells them so well. He's had a wild life. He likes to ramble and to roam. He's been filling my head with the things that he's seen, the scrapes he's got into, and the places he's been. But now they're fading, 'cause Charlie's gone home. When Charlie is with me, my life is on hold. He takes all my time, things get out of control. I should be relieved that I'm finally able to breathe again. Charlie's gone home now. I drove him downtown, dropped him off at the station. I'm sweeping the floors now, changing the sheets and organizing the kitchen. And the house is so quiet, it feels so strange. Only 1 hour and everything's changed. It seems so empty. I feel so alone. It was a party that lasted a week and a half. We played music together and we drank and we laughed, and now it's over. 'Cause Charlie's gone home. It's over. 'Cause Charlie's gone home. It's over. 'Cause Charlie's gone.
Thanks for listening to In the Spotlight from the Witham, Barnard Castle's Community Arts Centre. Available on all major podcast platforms. So please give us a follow and leave a comment. Or listen online at www.thewitham.org.uk. We'll be back soon with another episode.